Hey guys, and welcome back to Regrexit. Brexit England, Northern Ireland, and Eastern Europe. And in Brexit England, Rishi Sunak has told the doctors they can take it or leave it after they have been offered a 6% pay rise. It's really strange that unskilled workers are telling scientists and doctors, and all these medically trained people what to do. And when I say unskilled workers, because a politician is an unskilled job, right? It's just one of the best paid unskilled jobs. No, in fact, it is the best paid unskilled job in the country. And that's, but they are just unskilled workers. They might have been to university, but obviously with the way how the state of the country is, that doesn't mean anything because these guys have been to university. It means nothing, right? When you can sell off, let's think of one, BP for £8 billion, and now that's back in the 90s, and now it's worth just under 100 billion. So that's been stolen from us. Like how when they say, "Oh well, tax money." When people moan about tax money and this, they say, "Well, what was one I was thinking about the other day. Oh, like the bankers. They say, "Oh, well, we bailed out the bankers." We never bailed out the bankers. We never done. Right? They never asked us. They never said, "Well, we know what we're going to do. We're going to ask the taxpayer whether or not we should bail the bankers out." They never said that to us. They just done it on our behalf. So that's not us bailing out the bankers. That's them doing it on our behalf. We never had no say in it, So now, anyway, so Rishi Sunak now has said to the doctors, you can take it or you can leave it. And I just think, well, this not really the people that you should be using those type of lines on, because they can leave it, right? They can leave it and not work for the NHS. So, they're not really the type of people that you should really be saying that type of thing, because, they can work in this country in the private sector, and they can get all the hours they need in the private sector. And then, or they can go to they could go to, Canada, New Zealand, Australia, there's one more. Canada, New Zealand, Australia. Okay, we'll just go with those for now. But yeah, they can go. They can go to all those countries, and those people, are actively trying to employ them at the moment. They're sending over. They're sending things over on Twitter, on Facebook, to the NHS workers, right? To say, well, come over, come over, and they'll give them like a golden handshake to come over. Like money to obviously to get started with, right? And there's a vast difference because our government have just said that to fund the NHS, to fund their pay rise, right? They're going to get that money from migrants who are coming over here to work. So in Australia, go to Australia, right? They're saying to the medical staff, come to Australia, we'll give you a golden handshake, right? So you can get started. So they're saying, well, come over with your pocket, right? And we're going to give you this money to get started. And then the hours are a lot different, and the wages are a lot different in Australia, because they're, for some reason, they're prepared to look after their medical staff properly. But in this country, they're like, well, what we're going to do is we're going to cut the bursaries for the nurses. We're going to make it much more difficult, right, for people to be recruited. And, we're going to cut a lot of the services within the NHS. So, in the NHS, imagine it must be a very dark and horrible place to work, because, not only have you got hospital porters pushing dead people past you all the time, right? And so it can't be a nice environment to work in. Do you know what I mean? Everybody that you meet, apart from obviously people that might work in there, but everyone else you meet is sick. They're all sick people. I know if you go into a dentist surgery, everyone in there is going to, they're going to have something wrong with their teeth, right? But, these are all, they're all sick people in a hospital. And then, it can't be a nice environment, do you know what I mean? And then, the canteens, they've always got that, you've always got that hospital smell while you're eating and all those type of things, you know what I mean? So it can't be a nice environment to live in. My work takes me into the hospital grounds on a day, virtually, 4 or 5 days, 5 days a week. Take not into the actual hospital itself, but just on the grounds, right? And I have to drive past the morgue and all those things. It's not a nice, for me, it's not a nice environment to work in. And our government is just like, well, they want to make it much, much worse. And then they're talking about, oh, well, we're going to be, training up more people and, and all this type of thing, right? We say, well, you're just training up people so they can take themselves off to, to New Zealand, Canada, Australia. That's what you're training them up for. You're not training them up for anything else, right? Because that's the only thing you're training them up for, right? Trust me, right? You're not training these people up so these people can stay in this country. Because they can already see how badly the NHS staff are being treated right now. They've been treated horrendous. They're out on strike. You've got the junior doctors who, today I think they're finishing their 5-day strike. The junior doctors, their 5-day strike, they're just finishing. But you've got the consultants now have just announced that they've got another 2 days in August. Right? Because they've been offered 6%. Now people might say, well, these people they get because the hospital, the junior doctors and that, I can't remember what they get. But let's just go on let's just go with the GPs, because the GP's job is probably about 110 grand now. But that's just, I think, the standards. But they can do a lot of work within the private sector and all that, so they can really boost that, right? But you might think, well, these people, right? They're on 110 grand, right? They're offered 6%. Right? I think, well, that's not too bad. But you see, the problem is that their wages have been held back for so many years. Even though it might seem like a really good wage, right? 110, it might seem like a very good wage. Well, let's just say it's probably between 90 and 110, right? Now, so their wages have been held back for so many years. That's one of the problems. And a lot of people, they're living to their means. But with these guys, I think that they would have been able to save money before, right, on those, but now I think they find it much harder to actually, to put by 40 or 50, because that's, this is what these guys would have probably been saving, like, 10 to probably 40 grand a year or so, 40, maybe 50 grand a year. They're saving, right? So, and now that might have been pushed back. So they might be saving like maybe 10 grand a year, which obviously is a lot different to saving £50,000 a year, saving £10,000 a year. So so that might be, but then, as I said, right, because everyone's living to their means, right, it just means that a lot of these guys, they'll spend all their money when on even though they're earning that big money, they'll spend all of their money, right, at the end of the month to pay their bills, and because obviously everybody that you meet in this country, every adult you meet are struggling to pay rent or a large mortgage. And the junior doctors and the consultants are absolutely no different, right? So for me, Rishi Sunak saying to these people, you can take it or you can leave it, is one of the I'm not going to say it's the biggest mistake he's made, because you know what, he's made so many mistakes, so it can't be the biggest mistake he's made. But I can guarantee you this: it's not going to go very well for him. And welcome back to By Any Means Necessary. Thank you so much for all your messages sent me. Special thanks to everybody who signed up to my channel. I feel so blessed with so much people that signed up, so thank you so much for that. I'll go through all your messages, I'll answer as many as I can, but I will like all the messages for definite. So Carlos Alvarez, beats Djokovic yesterday in a Wimbledon final. And I mean, Djokovic is was he 35 or 36? He's something like that, right? But this Carlos Alcaraz, he is 20, and obviously he's been brought up watching Djokovic, from when he's been very, very young. So, I think, he would have went. I think that he probably would have went in there with quite a lot of confidence because he has played Djokovic before, but it didn't go too well for him. But there was always going to be a stage where someone, right, starts to beat Djokovic, because Djokovic, I mean, he's won 7 or 8 Wimbledons, isn't it? So for the last decade, he's virtually dominated for the last decade, and then you got things. I mean, the Australian Open, I think he didn't win it because he didn't attend, right? And the American. So it was always going to take. I think it was always going to take, like, the youngsters, the real youngsters, to start coming through, and beating someone like Djokovic. Because remember, it was because he's the youngest since Boris Becker, but Boris Becker was 17 when he won his first Wimbledon title. I don't think you'll get a player at 17 ever win Wimbledon, especially in the men's. I don't think you'll get, and I think that, like, looking at Alvarez, right, it could well be, that within the space of, like, 5 to 10 years, you won't get someone who's 20 years old that can win it. It will be pushed up to maybe 22, 23 years old, first, as the youngest person to win it. Because I mean, 20 years old is very, very young to win it, but 17, but different time eras. And let's move over to America, because Donald Trump has sent a cease and desist letter to the Georgia courts to ask them to remove Fani Willis. That's right, Fani Willis, or as we would say over here, Fanny Willis. But they've asked him to remove Fani Willis from his case because he said, because I'm running for president, right, I shouldn't be charged with any crimes because I'm running. And I say, well, didn't we see that move from morning? Wasn't we all saying exactly that? Wasn't we all saying, well, all Donald Trump, the reason why he's declared that he wants to run for president so early is because he's trying to avoid the criminal charges, what he's got coming up. I mean, we were saying that from then. And they've just sent the letter just this weekend, just before the weekend. They've sent the letter to say, well, we want you to cease and desist and do not go after Donald Trump for any charges. And furthermore, we would like Fani Willis, right, removed from all cases, and Fani Willis must not be able to take up any more charges against Donald Trump. I think the courts in Georgia were like, is this full serious? Yeah, and absolutely. You see, that is the real criminal mind. It's the real criminal mastermind, right? The way Donald Trump just does stuff. But Donald Trump actually, when Donald Trump said that he could shoot someone on Fifth Avenue or wherever it was, right? It could have even been Sunset Boulevard, but wherever it was, he actually really does mean it. That's the thing with him. People think, well, okay, but, if you actually done that, it would be going a bit far. Donald Trump actually believes he could actually do that. He could shoot someone on Fifth Avenue or Sunset Boulevard, and he could get away with it. And, I have no clue what gives him that actual mindset, but that's what he believes. Because, you see, Donald Trump has never been really held accountable. I mean, the Russia report said that he was guilty. It said he was guilty, right? But the whoever's running the DOJ or whatever it was at that time said, no, nothing to see here. But it said that he was guilty, innit? And Donald Trump knows that his supporters are not going to read it anyway. So Donald Trump tells them oh look, well this has cleared me, because it might have something in there. It might have just one small part in there that says, oh well, no, he didn't actually do that, but he done this, that, and that, yes, and that, and that's what it had in there. And there'll be one small part in there that said, well, he didn't actually, that part he didn't do, but everything else in there he actually done. And Donald Trump would focus on that one part and say, look, it says it. It's got it right there. I did not do this. You know, but and then he knows his supporters are not going to read it anyway. So and then the what was the other one? Obviously, because he got impeached for for January the 6th, and I mean even that, right? The Republicans themselves, right, was fighting his corner. Even though that some of them was running away from the MAGA crowd on that day. Republicans are making a complete idiot of themselves, right? Again, Hunter Biden accuser, Gail Loft, has been charged by the DOJ for illegally selling, for what he's done with the Hunter Biden laptop, because I think what they've done is they've added pictures and all those type of things on it, and they've added some stuff on there. And obviously, if you're a forensic computer person, you can tell that these people have done these things. So they've done all that type of thing. So he's been arrested, and he's been charged. And there was they had another whistleblower, yeah, who. I mean, the Republicans was bigging this guy up, saying, "Yeah, he's a whistleblower, and he's going to tell all of the stuff what you Democrats have been getting up to, right, while you're weaponizing the DOJ, while they're trying to weaponize the DOJ. That's what they're trying to do, but telling the other side, well, you've been doing that, you've been weaponizing the DOJ, right? So this guy, their massive witness, yeah, turns out that he's been illegally selling Iranian oil to China, illegally selling arms, right? And he's been and when he was lying to the FBI, right? So obviously they've been looking for this guy for some time, and this guy has come out, right? And he's just been immediately, obviously he's been arrested, because obviously you can't sell Iranian oil, and you're not allowed to illegally trade in firearms, right? So, and that's the type of stuff he's been doing, and obviously I said lying to the FBI as well. So all of those things, they carry some hefty jail sentences, So it's just another, I just look at these Republicans, right? And because the reason why I look at them, yeah, is because what goes on in America comes over here, right? So when you've got these people, I mean, you've got like James Comer, Jim Jordan, Tommy Tuberville. Now, I can safely say we haven't got any politicians as stupid as this. As stupid as our politicians are, right? We haven't got to this level of stupidity just yet. These guys are so stupid, right? How they got anywhere near power is just beyond me. I mean, it's just, I'm just like, it's over my head. Way over. Right? When I say way over, I mean, it's an aeroplane over my head. And I'm talking about a jumbo jet. I'm not talking about light aircraft. I'm talking about a jumbo jet. That's how far the shit is over my head of how people can actually vote for these clowns. I'm going to tell you, yeah, I mean, we have people like Gavin Williamson, Chris Grayling, Nadine Dorries, all as thick as gate posts, right? But these guys, right, are as thick as 4 gate posts each, right? Seriously, if you know how stupid these guys are making themselves look, right? And I just don't, I'm looking for it. How? And then we've got this poor man, Ray Epps. And when I say this poor man, I don't really mean that because he's a Donald Trump supporter. But Ray Epps, yeah, is suing Tucker Carlson and he's suing Fox News because they have been saying, well, this man, right, was he's been working for the FBI. It's all about the January 6th, hearings. Not January 6th hearings. It's the ones that it's all about, right, January the 6th. And a bit of this has come up in the hearings as well. But you've had Tucker Carlson talking about this guy, saying, well, this guy clearly has been working for the FBI because the night before, so January the 5th, he had a crowd of people around him and he was shouting, listen, we want to go into the Capitol tomorrow and all this type of thing, right? And then he said, I believe I heard him say peacefully, right? So then the next day he was there, but you could see him saying to the people, listen, this is going a bit too far now. Right, so we need to get down, and we need to do this. If we're going to do this, we need to all this violence and all that. So that was him the next day. So then they're just taking pictures from the night before. They're taking the videos from the night before where he's saying, "Listen, we're storming the Capitol, but we want to do it peacefully." So this is a long ass video because I'm already 21 minutes in. Right. So now, right, all of these networks. I mean, even congressmen. Right, senators as well. I mean, Ted Cruz, right? Remember him, Cancun Cruz, the man who can say he had the worst cut a man or a woman, in fact, a human has ever seen. Right, that Ted Cruz, the man who decided, you know what, I'm going to take myself off to Cancun while my constituents are freezing to death. He's in Cancun, and then he made up a lie after lie after lie after lie to say, oh no, it was my wife that wanted us to go to Cancun. It wasn't my idea. It was my children that wanted to go to Cancun. It was the dog and the little kitty cat who said, we want to go to Cancun because it's too motherfucking cold for us. Just lie after lie after lie this man made up. Yeah, and so they've all been, personally picking out this Ray Epps, right? There's been songs written about this Ray Epps and how he is a Fed. Right? They've got T-shirts about Ray Epps. The man has had to leave his house. He had a successful wedding business. Him and his wife had to leave. They're now living in an RV. Right? But soon they're going to be living in one fat yard because you know what? They are suing Tucker Carlson and Fox News. And I guarantee that both of them are going to have to settle with him. Maybe they're both going to have to settle with him. I mean, this is, it's kind of like what people like Rudy Giuliani and Donald Trump done to Ruby Friedman and her daughter, right? Where they were just like, oh, well, look, these people are clearly stuffing the ballot boxes. Right? The thing is, the whole thing was on video. Right, and even then, so they're suing. I think they're definitely suing Rudy Giuliani, maybe some other people as well. But Ray Epps, yeah, who, as I said, I don't feel sorry for because he's MAGA. But isn't it? What I look at as well, right, is just the way how MAGA treats other MAGA supporters. Because if you say, well, listen, you know what, no, man, this is not right. This is, if you was to go and say, well, listen, I'm MAGA, but I believe in climate change. It's not going to go well for you. Climate change. Just stop oil. People want to throw these people out the way. They want to throw them out the road and all these things there. Because Just Stop Oil, they disrupted, Last Leg, I think, on Channel 4. And then the first or the last night of the proms, whichever one it was. But they went and disrupted that too. Right? And obviously they've been doing all the sports events and, flower shows and all sorts of different things. And then walking in the roads and that. But people are still not getting the message. Even though China had the hottest day it's ever had. Yeah, I think yesterday or the day before. Today's Monday, right? So yesterday's Monday morning now, right? So yesterday or the day before, so it's Sunday or Saturday or Sunday, that China had the hottest day they've ever had. Europe right now is burning the hell up, right? Because I've always thought that taking the fossil fuels out of the ground, right? I'm not sure, right, whether or not that is like a fantastic idea, because it's obviously there for a reason. And these things do take thousands of years to do. I'm sure oil takes a 1,000 years or something like that to produce. So and these things are there for a reason. So whether or not us taking these things, whether us taking these things out of the ground, and and then putting it into the atmosphere, and putting it into the atmosphere in emissions, whether or not that is responsible for, because just remember, a few months ago in Europe, right, it was soddened with water, so they couldn't go out to work because it was soddened with water. Now they can't go out to work they can't go out to work now because there's up to 48 degrees. I see one place in America that had 54. That's hot. Yeah, when I say that's hot, I mean, you can't be walking out, and if you're walking out, you need an umbrella or one of those big Texas hats. Public spending watchdog believe that the government will not build 40 hospitals by 2030. And was there any doubt in anybody's mind? Of course not, because it was it was from Boris Johnson, so you should have taken it with a pinch of salt in the first place. And we all knew what they was really going to do. There's, if they could get away with just like putting a new wing on a hospital, then they could just put that down as one of the new basically as one of the new hospitals. So they've been doing all that type of thing. But I don't know how much they're going to. I think. They might actually get to about 30, yeah, by 2030. But I think they've got. I saw plans for one or two that was going to be open by 2025, but that was only one or two. But then I did hear someone say that they could do up to about 30, which by our standards, right, if you offer 40, right, and you get 30. So, well, it's not too much of a bad deal. That's by our standards. That's not by any other country's standards. That's just by our standards over here. Because, over here, it takes, the hospital, they just built a new hospital in Brighton, right? But that hospital, the plans and all that was done long before Boris Johnson got into power. But the government will claim that as one of their new hospitals. So you can find that will be the case as well. That a lot of these things was already planned, and they might just be finishing them up now, and the government can claim, so well, look, but it was already planned for anyway. Another U-turn by Keir Starmer. This time on the 2-child benefit limit cap. Keir Starmer, I'm non-stop telling people, right, that these people are not real Labour. Okay, they are Tories who have taken over the Labour Party a long time ago. The Labour Party was briefly taken back here by, you could say by Gordon Brown, yeah, Ed Miliband, and Jeremy Corbyn. And Ed Miliband brought in, obviously, we won't get another left-leaning leader because Ed Miliband brought in so that the members can vote for who the new leader is. And if the members get a chance to vote for the leader, the members are always going to put in someone. They're virtually going to always put in someone from the left. Now, the reason why Keir Starmer got in, because Keir Starmer pretended that's who he was. But Keir Starmer said that he was going to get rid of this benefit cap for only two. That you can only claim for 2 children. Because what the fuck is that? So when you say, well, what's that about? The child benefit, you can only claim for 2 children. So if you've got 6. Do you know what I mean? If you've got 6 children, do you know what I mean? You can only claim for 2. Ridiculous. It's just ridiculously stupid. But that's what Britain does. Britain does stupid things, right, and then expects a good result from doing something really stupid. So all. I mean that benefit apparently, it helps put, help put a few more people into poverty. But it's not like It's not like this was massive money in the first place, because this wasn't massive money that people was getting. I mean, your child benefit is probably now it's probably going to be under 30 quid each child. Do you know what I mean? It's not going to be anything that could really change your life. But these people, if you notice, anything that they give to the people of the country, right, it's always just itty bitty, right? But when it comes down to them, I mean, for example, right, if you was say you was an MP, right, and then you got a ministry for a week, that what you get for that week, right, is massive, because it gives you a pension, it puts massive money onto your pension and all these type of things. You know what I mean? And for those few days, right, believe me, they will calculate, right, from your 87 grand, right, or well, actually, because it's more when you got, I mean, it's more. So you go up with the money, right? But they'll calculate, so they give you the exact one, and it always comes to, like, if you were to do a ministry for a week, right, you'd end up with well over 10 grand quite easily, plus the pension rights for that week, and that pension rights are massive. So when it comes down to them, they can always make sure, you know what, we're going to fix ourselves up. But when it comes down to us, they're like, child benefit, hey, take under for. I can't. I don't know how much it is, but I know it's not. It's not going to be anything to write home about, because when I was a kid, it was only. I'm sure it was under a tenner. It was like, under 15 quid anyway. Do you know what I mean? A week. Do you know what I mean? So it's never been anything big. Mick Lynch says he can no longer tell the difference between Labour and the Tories. How long have I been there? I've been telling people this for absolute years. Right, but I go that bit further, and I say that these people, they are Tories. When it comes down to Labour, these people are Tories who have taken. I mean, and if you're not, and the thing is, because I mean, you've got Angela Rayner there, and you'd have a complete different. If Angela Rayner was sat next to Jeremy Corbyn, she'd be a complete different person, right? But sat next to Keir Starmer, she has to conform. Right, and she's the only person I could look at and say. And there's another Asian girl, and she often hangs out with, like, Jeremy Corbyn. She's a Labour MP, but she often hangs out with Jeremy Corbyn. Right, those, I could look and say, and then you've got people like John McDonnell and people. These people are real Labour, and Jeremy Corbyn. These are real Labour. Do you know what I mean? But they've so much of them have had to go with Starmer. But Starmer obviously is, I don't know, he's playing his cards right. Do you know what I mean? Because obviously Starmer just knows that he has to get into power, whether or not, right, he's going to go back to the things that he said he will do. Because he said good things about the utility companies when he was trying to get the leadership, and now he's completely changed his mind. He's changed his mind on the benefits, changed his mind on a lot of the green issues as well. So so whether or not, right, Starmer is just doing that so he can get himself into power, and then if he can get to going to a second term or whatever, he can start showing that he is a socialist. But if you notice, they have really destroyed the word socialism. They've destroyed it. They say even though they all live on socialism, every single politician around the world, actually, but in this country, all live on socialism, while telling the people socialism's terrible for you. But you know what? Just put my 87 grand into my bank, right? Pay my utilities, right? Give me my subsidised food and pay my travel costs. What does that sound like to you? Sounds like a higher form of socialism, especially with the 87 grand in the bank, plus the housing cost paid, right? Just a higher form of socialism, or even communism. But that's what they do. Do you know what I mean? While telling the people, oh, it's terrible for you. But Mick Lynch is absolutely correct when he says he can no longer tell the difference between Labour and the Tories. And I think a lot of people are going to be like that. Do you know what I mean? And that could lose, because we've got those by-elections coming up. I think they might be coming up this week, right? And, Uxbridge, that really should be a shoo-in for the Labour Party, right? I'm just looking at it thinking, I don't know at the moment, because you see, because of the ULEZ, right, that can take a lot of votes away from Labour. because of the ULEZ. Because, you know, as much as Keir Starmer and Sadiq Khan will tell you, oh, well, look, my dad was a tool maker. My dad was a bus driver. As much as they'll tell you that, yeah, they're still ready to shaft the working classes, okay? That's what they're ready to do. Shaft the working person, right? So as much as they say, oh, well, look at me. I'm from a working class background. Fuck you, bitch. University degrees, rip off. There's the government saying we don't want to do none of these rip-off university degrees no more. But you see, I mean, I think they're missing the whole point of university because, you know, a lot of times like these companies are saying, well, look, you just need a degree, any degree, just a degree. No matter what it is, right? It could be in basket weaving, right? It could be in motor car valeting, right? Or, I should have thought of another one. But it could be in any of those type of things. Or some type of fancy writing, calligraphy, you know, creative writing. But, you know, they looked at that and they said, well, actually, you know, if you were to do a creative writing course, right, the jobs what you're coming out to do would get you about £14,000 a year. You'd need another job in McDonald's or in the KFC or in Burger King or Pizza Hut or which other fast food restaurant you can get your ass into. But, you know, but they're saying a lot of these are rip-off degrees, you know what I mean? So, but, you know, as I said, I'm not sure whether they get the whole point of degrees because, you know, a lot of degrees is, you know, it's about like critical thinking and socializing. That's what university is about. It's about a lot of that type of thing, you know. There's a lot of jobs where they put people through university. I don't think people, if someone who wants to be a police officer should need to go to university. I mean, that's just ridiculous, right? And I don't really think that nurses need to go to university. I think that's, you know, a nurse is something that you can, because, you know, you're not allowed, you know, as a nurse, it's not like you can that you can prescribe drugs. Right? You're not like you haven't got your own prescription pad. Right now, you can issue, but you know that would be with the doctor. Doctor will have to say to you, "Well, nurse, can you get this? You know, the patient needs this, and this." Right, but the nurse can't look at you and decide, "Well, this is what you need." Right. So for them, I'm not sure why they have to go to university. And it's very, you know, and paramedic, because paramedics, they're going to people's houses and, you know, maybe, you know, they might have to revive people and, you know, and they'll give people like adrenaline and, you know, and there's certain other shots that paramedics can give you, which is very much, you know, drugs that can keep you alive. Literally, so they have to be able to do it. So I mean, I can see the point why they would have to go to university, and chemists obviously, because you know these people are mixing drugs. So obviously I can understand why people like that. But you know, I don't. You know, there's a few people I don't understand why they have to go to university. And let's move on to some Brexit. I personally think this is a Brexit story. John Lewis bosses say shoplifting has increased massively under the cost of living crisis. Brexit, I'd say, because obviously Brexit has brought on the cost of living crisis massively in this country. But you know, the police are not coming out too much for shoplifting, and you know, so they, you know, so obviously they're complaining about it because you know people really do not have the money to buy all the stuff what they see in the shops. They see the stuff in there, they ain't got the money to buy it. So through the self-service counter, you've probably got a lot of people stealing through the self-service counters, and obviously people, and then you know, obviously the old-fashioned way, you know, is going and stick something in your jacket or into your back pocket, and that's it. You know, but John Lewis bosses are really complaining about this. They say, "Oh, why don't you start putting your butter right behind glass, or putting like security tags on it?" Oh, they're already doing that. Yes, they're already doing stuff like that on butter. And obviously, you know, the big piece of cheese and stuff like that, and you know, and meats and all your legs of lamb and all those types of all those things. I mean, I'll be very surprised if you went into a shop nowadays and that's not security tagged, because most of those things are well security tagged. Depends what kind of shop you're going to, but in the big supermarkets there will be. Indo-Pacific trade bloc. Britain has just signed up. and Kemi Badenoch and Laura Lund Koonsberg. What's her name? Koonsberg. Massive argument on the Sunday morning program. Massive. Where Kemi Badenoch said, "Just shut up and let me finish." She didn't actually say "shut up," but that's what she meant. Right? Let me finish what I'm saying. Right? Because you know what, she wants to speak nonsense and she doesn't want to be challenged on it, right? Because this, the block might be worth 12 trillion. I mean, that's a lot of money, right? But that's what the block might be. The block might be. I don't know if they do that much trade. Because they could well do, you know what I mean? Because there are some there's some big names in this block. But for us, right, this block is going to be worth 1.8 billion to the UK economy. Anywho, right, Kemi Badenoch is like bigging this thing up as if to say, yeah, it's going to be bringing us over 100 billion like the EU used to bring us. So 1.8 billion. And around about 100 billion. I mean, you have to work out which one of those is the bigger figure. Yeah, is it 1.8 billion or is it 100 billion? I'm going to leave you to work that out all by yourself. Brexit is bad news for advertising, say the Daily Mail. The people who pushed and pushed and pushed for Brexit, and now it's finally starting to they're actually starting to feel it themselves, because what's happening there is the companies that could advertise with them before can no longer advertise with them now, because they haven't gone bankrupt. They've had to start cutting back on their budgets. So now they're like, well, what can we cut back on? A lot of people know what our products are, and we can find other ways on the internet to advertise our product. Right. We don't need to. We might not need to stick them in a newspaper anymore, because so much newspapers are sold online nowadays. So if you're going online anyway, and literally you can get your banner up on on a lot of different places, so that your banner just follows people all over. It just follows people all over the place. So I think that it's really starting to hit them now, and. Battery farm eggs, right? They want to block them from this country. The animal welfare charities wants to block battery farm eggs from the country. Now, I personally never buy battery farm eggs. I only buy free range, but obviously that's getting more and more expensive, And because they decided that they was going to smash our farming industry to pieces, right? They're just like, what we're going to do to the farmers, right? We're going to big farm and hold their head under the blanket. That's what they've done to the farmers. Just fuck them up, right? And now you're having a lot more imports coming in, like, from, and these are battery, like, the Americans have been, they're complaining about, oh, well, why you guys, a trade deal with America. We're not going to really need one, because Britain does so much trade with America as it is. But there are still certain things that the Americans would have liked to have got into this market. Their hormone beef, and their buffalo, with chickens that have got wings with this massive wingspan. That's not a chicken's wing. That wing looks like it comes off of a buffalo, right? So they want to get all those type of things in, but the EU do not allow that type of stuff in their region at all. Right? You can't get hormone injected beef in the EU. They will not allow it into the EU. And it's like like you've got, like, in America they've got like it's like a serving, per serving amount, and that amount is things like flies and fly wings and rats, rat shit, and fly larvae, rat hairs. So they've got a serving per, a per serving amount of those type of things that you could. So they might say, well, look, you're allowed to have, like, if you've got like a can of soup, depends on what size it is, because you've got a couple of different sizes. So you might have to, they say, well, you're allowed to have an allowance of like maybe 2 or 3 mouse hairs, maybe a fly's wing, which ultimately gives it more flavour. Don't get me wrong, it does give it more flavour, right? But it's not really the type of thing that I really want in my food, right? I don't want to know, right, that you're allowed to have half of a mouse shit in a serving. That's per serving. So if you've got a can of beans, a can of beans is like, what, 2 servings. So, right, that's per serving. So if it's per serving, half, right, full serving, right, full. And that's why we want these things blocked from Britain, right? These things was already blocked from the EU, but we really want them blocked from Britain, so because we don't want that type of thing ending up on our shelves. I don't know about you, but I certainly don't. Anyway, my friends, I've gone so far on this video, but I think the last time I done a video was last week Monday, or last week Tuesday. So I was supposed to do a couple of videos last week, but didn't get around to it. My friends, this is By Any Means Necessary. I'm the MC John Ribs. It was really nice to speak to you guys. Comments below.